We're gonna go old school for a minute. Come on, everybody sing it with us, and we're trusting. He'll never. Come on, I want to hear the whole church sing it. Say, oh, y'all ain't singing. Can we? Everybody clap your hands. Come on, y'all gotta give me a little more energy.
Good evening. We welcome you to St. James Missionary Baptist Church's annual celebration of Black History Month. The 2023 Black History Month theme is Black Resistance. The theme, Black Resistance, was identified by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. This organization was founded in 1915 by historian, author, and educator, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who is also known as the father of Black history. Black Resistance explores how African Americans have resisted historic and ongoing oppression in all forms. Since the nation's earliest days, this has included the racial terrorism of lynching, the struggle for equal housing and education, the struggle for voting rights, inequality in health care, and unjustified police killings. For African Americans, the struggle lives on even into the 21st century. You know the old cliche, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Our play is titled, The Black Resistance, The Struggle is Real, because you will see that the oppression experienced by African Americans in the 1800s continues even today. The primary difference today is that persons incorrectly use religion and the Bible to justify their heinous acts. For example, the racial terrorism of lynching continues today. Lynching refers to when an individual who has not undergone due process is executed by a group of people who lack legal authority. Lynching is generally carried out on public display and is a form of mob justice, intimidation, and group social control. In the United States, lynching is usually associated with the period of rampant mob violence inflicted on the Black community from the end of the Civil War through the middle of the 20th century. Lynching is a form of violence still present in the United States today. It is our goal to actualize for you through our play that the Black struggle is real.
Girl, I'm so glad they got this coffee shop ready for us so we can have our Bible study and not even have to go out to get our coffee.
I know, we ain't got to worry about Starbucks and them long lines.
I know, and that price.
Yeah, I know, Lord. Cup of coffee.
It don't get no
Word
better
of God,
than this. Yeah.
Don't get no better than
Yes.
this. All right.
Girl, but did you hear what they've been saying about all them lynches, all the Black
man.
people in different parts of the country, talking about they were suicides? Do they really think we believe that all those were suicides?
You know, I just don't understand. When is all this going to stop? The hatred of Black people, it just don't make no sense. A Black teenager found hanging in a tree in front of the school down in Houston. And they said that that's a suicide. Then you got this situation on June 17th back in, I think it was like 2020. Then 2 days later, 2 days earlier,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Girl, a Black man found hanging from a tree. These things happen 45 miles apart from each other. But they said it wasn't no foul play. No foul play at all. Then they said it was suicide. That's the word we call it nowadays, suicide. But the police officers, they get down there, they looking at the case, prompted, now understand this prompted protests and everything else. But by the time they got through with everything they needed to do, then they said it was just suicide. No, ain't no chairs out there. It wasn't no ladders to assist these people to get up there. I guess they think they just levitated up there and hung themselves.
Yeah, that's why black people so mad. We don't get no real justice. A body found hanging from a tree in Manhattan the same day one was found in Houston. And in Northern California, several nooses hanging from trees in different spots. You know.
Still nooses.
Still nooses. But you know what? The FBI did investigate this to see if it was a hate crime.
Okay.
While others saying that those ropes were used for exercise.
For huh?
Really, exercise.
A noose
Exercise.
was used for exercise.
Really.
That ain't no G-Fit I want to go to.
Okay, let me tell you. You know, we should be progressing, but with all of the intimidations and oppressions still going on, and some of it even more, these lynchings are nothing but murders, they saying that are suicides. Girl, black people got to be careful.
Yeah, we do.
The struggle is real. But you know
struggle
what?
is
We
real.
got to get out of here so we can get ready for the Bible study tonight. How many do you think gonna come?
We might have 3 or 4, so we can plan around that.
All right.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Amidst mass protests against racism and police brutality across the country, at least 5 men, 4 Black and 1 Latinx, have been found hanging in public across the United States in recent weeks. All 5 deaths were initially deemed suicides, but community advocates, scholars, and those all too familiar with America's racist history say there's another possibility.
To respond, and after they came here, they made a determination that this, in fact, was a human person. Fire department shortly responded quickly thereafter. The fire was extinguished. We've made an initial determination that, unfortunately, this is a suicide. There are no indicators of foul play.
So you mean to tell me that the person set themselves on fire, climbed up the tree, wrapped the rope around their neck, tied it on the limb while they're still on fire, and then dropped down and hung themselves? Y'all need to reevaluate.
Ready? No, let us go. Ready to take a deep breath. In the dream, we're in the front yard and Keith is there. And he starts to slowly walk off. He never says bye to me. He just says, I gotta go. If he would have left a note, he would have said goodbye. My name is Sherry Warren. I had a brother named Keith, who on July 31st, 1986, was found hanging from a tree.
As soon as we got to the scene, everything just went sideways.
This case has too many red flags. It is impossible for anybody to commit suicide that way.
How in the hell do you get a young Black man hanging from a tree and that not send alarm bells all the way up through the police department?
They ruled a suicide right away without any type of an investigation whatsoever.
We started asking the questions that we believed at the time the police should be asking.
This boy, he was a teenager, he had a car, he had friends, he was ready to go to college, he was getting ready to start living his life.
The story didn't make sense then, it doesn't make sense now.
For me, my motivation is somebody wanted to silence this. Somebody wanted this to go away. Nobody was investigated. Nobody was interviewed. You had no autopsy performed.
You have to look at what it was in 1986. There were racial tensions in all the suburbs.
My mom did not put her head in the sand and quietly go away. No. And I'm not doing it either.
Mary Cooey went to her grave trying to figure out what happened to her son.
her life drained every year, trying to fight for justice for her child. And she couldn't get it. Not while she was here, but while I'm here, I'm gonna fight for it too.
Unfortunately, lynching is just one example of oppression that is fought by African Americans. Healthcare is another area of oppression. The American healthcare system is beset with inequalities that have a disproportionate impact on people of color and other marginalized groups. These inequalities contribute to gaps in healthcare coverage, uneven access to services, and poor health outcomes among certain populations. African Americans have always borne the brunt of these healthcare challenges. African Americans still experience illness and infirmity at extremely high rates and have lower life expectancy than other racial and ethnic groups. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, has helped to ensure health care coverage for millions of Americans. Of the more than 20 million people who have gained coverage under the ACA, 2.8 million of them are African American, and yet this population is still more likely to be uninsured than white Americans. Even with improved access to medical care under the ACA, the disparities in health outcomes between African Americans and whites are stark. African American women are 3 times more likely to die of pregnancy-related causes than white women, for example. And the African American infant mortality rate is twice the rate for white infants. Another important social and oppressive factor leading to poor health outcomes and economic disadvantage among African Americans is racism, because not only is it a stressor leading to wear and tear on the body, but it also impacts who gets what in America, particularly health care. African Americans have endured racism within American society for hundreds of years. African Americans continue to fight the perception that they are drug seeking when presenting themselves for treatment in the emergency room. Some, unfortunately, because of racism, are denied treatment and sometimes die as a result of this denial.
I don't know how God's gonna do it. And I don't know when it's gonna fix it. Come on, well, Lord, I only know, yeah, God's gonna make a way for me. I know He will. I know He's gonna do it. You can help me sing victory.
Girl, I can listen to that song all day long. It gives me hope. It lets me know who I can put my hope in, who I can put my trust in, who has the ability to right all the wrongs that we as black people have to endure. But I guess we better get back to the Bible study or we be here all night long.
I'm telling you, I don't need to be here all night. I'll tell you, my sinus has me going, so if y'all see me dripping and wiping and coughing and drinking water, I'm okay.
All right.
Y'all got y'all Bible lesson with y'all?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
We in Proverbs, right?
Yes, we in
All right.
Proverbs. I tell you, this book of Proverbs is called the Book of
Yes,
Wisdom.
sir.
Yes, it is. It's rich with wisdom, and it has knowledge, and it tells us how we need to treat each other.
All right.
But we just don't do it.
We don't do it.
Let's look at this. Chapter 6, verses 16 to 19 tells us.
Okay, hold on now. Come on.
Y'all find it now. Okay. Proverbs
All
chapter
right.
6,
Right
here.
verses 16 to 19.
I have
it. Okay, it says that there are 6 things that the Lord hates.
All right.
That's a strong word, y'all.
All right.
The Lord hates. 7 that are an abomination to Him.
All right.
Haughty eyes. A lying tongue.
Yes.
Hands that shed innocent blood.
All right.
A heart that devises wicked schemes. Feet that are quick to rush into evil.
Girl, they can run in platforms.
A false witness who pours out lies.
All right.
And a person who stirs up conflict in the brethren. My God, my God. God hates those things.
Yes, He does. Yes, He does.
Those scriptures just speak so, they
telling you.
You know, me and JoJo was talking about that earlier today.
All right.
We really were. We're trying to sip coffee and talk lynching all across the United States. And that just fits everything.
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 Yes.
In reference to all this injustice.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
But I'm going to tell you one thing. I hear you about that lynching, but we also have to deal with poor health quality.
All right.
Well, yeah.
You know, our quality of health care is just not what it needs to be for us. Did you hear about that girl that went to the emergency room and she had a sickle cell crisis?
All right.
And they would not treat her. They sent her home and she died an hour later. That's just pitiful, you know. And the thing about it is that she tried to tell the nurse. She stood up for herself, but the nurse got mad at her. And when the nurse got upset with her, she had him to call the police, and the police came and put her out of the emergency room.
The nurse
The
called
nurse.
the police.
The nurse had them to call the police, and the police came and had her put. You know, she was just trying to stand up for herself. She was just trying to tell them that the medicine you gave me is not helping me. I take a lot more medicine than that at home.
All right.
And this, what you're giving me, is just not helping.
Well, they think everybody go to hospital is a crackhead nowadays.
Girl, I heard about that situation. But her family and the community rallied on her behalf. But you know, on top of that, she had an issue with her blood too. I think her count was 6.
Yeah.
And you know that calls for a blood infusion on any medical protocol.
That's right.
But her doctor said it was normal.
No.
That's what he said.
Said it was normal.
That's what he said.
But all the other doctors say she should have had a blood transfusion. That doctor lied just to get her out of the hospital.
That's right.
And to add insult to injury, you know, she was recording the whole thing with her cell phone. And the police slapped the phone out of her hand.
Yes.
That was so
that's
wrong
right.
in
That
so
was
many
wrong.
different levels.
Yes,
When
it was.
will we get justice?
I don't know, but I tell you this. Why is it that every time a black person presents to the emergency room, it has to be that they're seeking drugs?
That's it.
It has to be that they're seeking drugs and not necessarily really in pain.
Profile.
And then when they actually get the pain medication, they give them less than what they would give to someone of a different complexion.
There you go.
I just don't understand it. Why is this happening, Lord? Help us, Lord.
Help us.
This is why we need more people who look like us
Yes.
to go into these healthcare fields.
Right,
That's
right.
right.
We need more nurses. We need more doctors. We need more nutritionists. We need anyone in the healthcare field to look like us. And then maybe this type of treatment, this ill treatment, would then reverse itself. Maybe we can have better assistance and care. I just don't know. But this treatment of black people cannot continue in this way.
Continue.
I don't know how you're going to fix it, Lord, but we need you to fix it.
Fix it, Jesus.
Fix it.
You my pain and what's wrong with me, and you're totally ignoring me. This is a hospital. This is not a place you go for groceries, and if you're out of milk, you're just out. No, you are putting my life in danger by sending me home.
So Dr. Sad again.
I don't care who he consulted. It doesn't matter. You're sending me home, and that's a danger to me. That is a danger. I would not have come if I didn't believe I was sick. You can see it in my blood record that I am in a crisis. So how in the world would a hematologist and blood doctor suggest that being at a 6 is good? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
and even if it's not blood, like you're not even looking at pain control. I'm not gonna come here if I have pain meds at home. Why would I come here if that was working? If that was working, I wouldn't have came in the first place. Just sitting there doing nothing while I'm in pain.
She passed away. This has to stop. When is this going to stop? When are people going to take Black people seriously in patient care.
Violence and homicides perpetrated on African Americans is another area of oppression that African Americans have had to resist, and is also a leading cause of death for African Americans. In addition to lynching and denial of health care, both a form of violence and homicide, African American children are 10 times more likely to die by gun violence than white children. I know people are quick to say it's due to self-inflicted violence, but that's not true in many, many instances. The recent murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and Tyree Nichols, and the sustained protests across the U.S. that have followed, have taken many Americans by surprise. For African Americans, these tragic deaths at the hand of the police or those acting on their behalf serve as another unwelcome reminder of the long history of violent racism and gripping inequalities that ignite their calls for justice and change. African Americans and other minorities are targeted and detained in encounters with the police at a significantly higher proportion than their representation in the population. This statement has been verified in multiple studies. Black men are 2.5 times more likely than white men to be killed by police during their lifetime for simple things such as a traffic stop, abuse of 911 because they know how the police will respond to Black people standing in their own yard or home, not wearing a seatbelt, and refusing to identify self when there is no legal reason to do so. And in another study, Black people who were fatally shot by police seem to be twice as likely as white people to be unarmed. African Americans and other minorities suffer unwarranted psychological, verbal, and emotional, physical abuse in larger and increasingly disparate amounts by the hands of the police. Police brutality on African Americans and other minorities have been systematic and continues to go unchecked.
I hate to come here and tell you what happened to a 15-year-old Black boy named Jaheim McMillan on October 6th, but I have to, because not only is it shameful the way that the police in this country treats Black people, but the way that the media and social media are co-conspirators in keeping the messages suppressed, because this child was not only killed on October 6th by Mississippi police, but since then, all the eyewitnesses, his mother, his sister, his family members have had their Facebook accounts restricted so that they can't tell the story. But on October 6th, Jaheim McMillan, a 15-year-old, went to his Family Dollar down the block from his own house. He walked out. Multiple eyewitnesses have said this. He walked out of the Family Dollar with his hands up when he saw the police. Hands up, nothing in his hands. And they shot that 15-year-old boy in the head and left his body there and handcuffed him. And then when his mother came to the scene, they tried to handcuff his own mother. They shot that child 8 times. 8 times they shot that child. And then when he was put on life support, his mother says that he was removed off of life support without his mother's permission. They shot and killed her child and they took him off of life support. And now they're saying that he was armed, despite the fact that multiple eyewitnesses says he was not. Now, conveniently, the Family Dollar that had video footage, video security footage of what happened, it's gone. Conveniently just erased. And they haven't released out the body-worn camera footage, and they seem to be refusing to. I just want to give you a warning before this rolls into the next video clip of his mother crying, because you need to understand, for context, not only does this woman have to bury her 15-year-old son, but you need to understand that they killed him so close to her house she was able to run down the street where her son was still dead on the floor and handcuffed.
Tonight, an internal affairs investigation is underway right now after an incident involving a Miami-Dade police officer is caught on video. Take a listen.
Give me your driver's license, registration.
Listen closely.
If not, you will not be going to work today. Simple thing, man. This is how you guys get killed out here, man. Registration and insurance.
Say that again.
Did you just threaten him?
Say what you just said.
Now, when asked to repeat what the officer said, the officer closes the driver's door. At this time, we don't know what led to the traffic stop, but the driver did post the video on TikTok with the title, #Being Black in America is a...
That has not received the national attention that it deserves. A New York State trooper killed an 11-year-old child. This New York State trooper pulled over a family of four, a father, wife, and two children, 11 and 12. He pulled them over for speeding. It was supposed to be a traffic ticket. It ended up being a death. That state trooper is identified as Christopher Baldner. Let me give you some background to this. Back in December, this family was pulled over by that trooper. There was an argument between the driver, a black male father, and the trooper, according to the report. The driver said, "Can you please call your supervisor?" That's part of the protocol, ladies and gentlemen. You can request a supervisor. It is part of their guidebook protocol. Well, instead of getting a supervisor, this trooper continued to argue with this father. Went back to the squad car. According to the report, first at the family, the wife said she was tired. The trooper said, "I don't give a F if you're tired." Just continued in that same aggression. He went to the squad car, comes back, and he decides to spray mace into the vehicle indiscriminately, spraying the father, the mother, and the 11 and 12-year-old in the backseat of the car. Instinctively, the father, in fear of his life and the life of his family, said, "This cop is out of control." And he proceeded to pull away from all of this pepper spray being sprayed, harming his entire family. Well, this cop decided to break policy, got behind this family. He has already seen there's a wife and two children in the car, and he rammed their vehicle, not once, but twice. He ejected the 11-year-old daughter from the car. She died at the scene. She's dead today. She's no more. Look at this beautiful young soul. She's dead over something that should have been a traffic ticket.
No. What do you need? No, why? All right. Hold on. I know, but your recording is a lot easier, or a lot harder to get versus mine. So. No.
A veteran was in the parking lot of a gas station waiting for his friends when this happened.
What's your badge number? Okay. Okay. No, that's not how it works. I have rights as an American citizen, right? Failing to identify is a secondary offense. You have to have an actual charge, or you have to suspect me of committing a crime. You don't have that. You have nothing. I'm not going to identify simply because you see me park and you want to come up and identify me. That's not how it works.
Grand Junction police appear to racially profile this man and try using the same old tactics.
Earlier in the night, there was a shooting that occurred right near the Travel Lodge.
Okay.
And your car is similar in description, a dark-colored sedan to
Okay.
the suspect vehicle.
Okay.
All right. So you're leaving the Travel Lodge.
Okay.
With information that's where the suspect might have come from.
Okay. Do you have a license plate number? Do you have a description of the person? Do you have anything? No. You do not have articulable suspicion that I've done anything.
I actually do.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
No, you do not. I am not going to identify.
Okay,
No.
if you fail to identify yourself, I'm going to pull you out of this car and detain you for obstruction.
No.
Because right now you're interfering with my investigation.
No.
The officers, however, continue pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to get this man to surrender his rights.
You have to have reasonable, articulable suspicion that I have committed a crime. What crime do you suspect me of committing?
Possible attempted homicide.
Possible attempted homicide.
This officer then threatens the innocent man with detainment because the man with the badge isn't getting his way.
You're not going to come up to me and try to intimidate me and get my identification, huh?
Who's intimidating you?
He is. He's.
Do you want to talk to me?
Yes. I do.
He'll step back.
All right.
Can I talk to you for a minute?
Yes, sir.
Once the first officer is dismissed for a moment, another officer tries again to have this man willfully give up his rights.
I believe in American rights, especially as a black man, right? I understand.
You believe in the rights of somebody who got shot?
That has nothing to do with me.
Exactly. It does not.
That's got nothing.
Rifle competition, right?
I'm going as a guest.
Okay, that's kind of cool. We want to get you on your way, man.
Okay.
All I really need to do is identify you.
No, you do not. No, you don't. You already know my name, which means you looked up my freaking license plate, right? So why do you need for me to identify? I'm not giving up my rights as a free American because you guys are using intimidation tactics. Failure to identify is a secondary offense.
This is what puzzled me. They already identified him. They know who he is, and yet they choose this route.
He's not really forthcoming with information.
Why are you not cooperative?
Because I don't have to be cooperative with your investigation.
Well, you have to ID yourself.
No, I do not. I absolutely do. Tell me why I have to ID.
Well, Colorado state law says.
Explain that to me.
This is where it gets good. When this innocent man asks a police officer to explain the law, he decides to, well, not.
You want me to recite the law?
I want you to. I want you to explain why me as a person, have to ID to you.
Colorado state law says you do.
Explain that law.
Okay, what do you want explained?
You can't just say, well, the law says you are law enforcement, right?
Explain to me why it doesn't.
No. I do know. How are you going to tell me what I know? How are you going to tell me what I know? I did not say that I can't explain it. You as a law enforcement officer, as law enforcement, know the law. Me as a citizen is asking that. First of all, what's your name and your badge number, please? What's your name and your badge number? What's your name and your badge number, sir?
I can give that to you.
You have to.
No.
Yes, you do. You are a public servant. I'm asking for your name and badge number. No, I do not. You have to have reasonable, articulable suspicion that I, me, as a person, have committed a crime, about to commit a crime, or in the process of committing a crime.
I agree with that.
Right?
You're correct.
So not only did he not recite the law, likely because, as we have seen many times over, LEOs just don't know it. Then he fails to identify, which goes against policy. He hit the trifecta here.
There's going to be a lot of people that see this video that are going to ask, well, why don't you just ID? Why don't you just ID? That's how you give up your freaking, that's how you lose your rights. You lose your rights when it becomes normal practice to be, well, what are you being hostile for? What are you not cooperating for? They use words like that to try to intimidate you, to force you to give up your rights. That's how you lose your rights as a free American in the United States, because the norm becomes just give up your rights. So for all you people that are going to ask that question, that's why I'm not IDing, because I'm not going to give up my rights, because there's too many sheep out there that don't know the law and are afraid of the police.
Let me tell you something. This dude is putting everyone who is watching this on game.
All right, Mr. Booker, you have a nice day. Good luck at your shooting competition.
Off, man.
They do not get his ID, but make it known we know who you are. We still state your name without even getting your ID. This is intimidation by law enforcement. It appears, as you know, February marks Black History
history about them. A history that we know is rife with discrimination and abuse, such as slavery, Jim Crow, and the structural racism we're still infected with today. Sadly, more and more, this history is being challenged and even erased in our culture and right now in our schools through tactics like curriculum restrictions and book bans. Truths we once considered hard but self-evident are now being erased before our eyes. Over 30 state legislatures across the country have introduced bills to limit the discussion of racial history in a wave prompted by the 1619 Project and the emergence of critical race theory as a subject of stirring up political fear that the truth of the treatment of African Americans will be known. But that's just the beginning. Over 300 books by predominantly Black authors discussing race, gender, and sexuality were banned in the last year alone. Yes, you heard me right. We're banning books again. When our history is banned, how do we learn about our ancestors? How do we learn from what's happened in the past and how it affects our present? When your culture is banned, how do you see yourself? How do you belong? How do you celebrate the stories, music, food, and family that made you who you are?
You know, so much is going on in this world today. We need to pray and try to gain wisdom and knowledge about what the word says for ourselves. You know, those television evangelists and people, they will tell you things, but you know, you don't know for sure that what they're telling you is right. So we need to study more of our Bible and find out for ourselves. We even need to know more about the people who are running for office. We need to know who they are and what they're saying and whether or not what they're saying is the right thing to be said, whether or not what they're saying is really what they believe. We gotta really learn how to read the word for ourselves.
You so right. You know Proverbs 18:15 says, let me find it here now. It reads, intelligent people are always ready to learn. Their ears are open to knowledge.
Oh, okay. Well, let me give you my version.
All right.
My version of the same scripture, and it reads like this. It says, wise people want to learn more, so they listen closely to gain knowledge.
All right.
And I know we're in the book of Proverbs, but I just wanted to share the word from the book of Isaiah.
All right.
Isaiah 46:9 says, remember the former things, those of long ago.
Yeah.
Now, all these verses talk about wisdom and that we need to seek knowledge and to remember our history, not to abolish it or to erase it.
That's right. That's right.
In fact, the Bible, the book that our oppressors cite whenever they want to justify their actions,
All right.
is full of history.
It is. It really
It
is.
tells of the treatment of black and brown people. But you know what? That's another Bible study. Because there are still people in this world who believe that every single person in the Bible was white.
Yeah.
Wait.
Imagine
Whoa. There are still people who believe that every person in the Bible
is white.
Oh, I just want to make sure.
They even believe that Jesus was white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though the Bible tells us that we were all created in his image.
Sure enough.
Which means that he also looks like us.
All
All
right.
right now.
All
He
right.
looks not just like them, but he looks like us.
Exactly.
And so imagine them trying to erase Bible history. Imagine them trying to erase that.
All right.
You know what? They are just afraid of the truth.
They are.
Critical
That's
point.
They're
right.
afraid of the truth. They really are.
Wow.
You know, that's the fact in this country. You know, this country was built by slaves. You know, some of the amenities like the stoplight and the ironing board and so many more things, refrigeration, blood transfusions, all those amenities that we enjoy on a daily basis, those things were invented and come to be with black people who they deem as intellectually inferior
Yeah.
to them.
They do.
They want that history to be hidden.
They do. They want it to be hidden, but you know what? We are not going to let our history be hidden.
No, we're not.
Because we will teach our children their history ourselves. You know, they try to ban corporate prayer in the schools.
But that didn't
and you know, and that's all right, because we taught our children how to pray no matter where they were, whenever they needed to pray, they could pray, even in the school.
That's right.
I know you're right.
You can't hide, you can't stop us.
Can't stop us.
Another question coming to us from a YouTube viewer. This is from Bryson Constable, more on critical race theory. Here, see, I told you people would have questions. I knew it's the kind of thing that everyone you hear about all the time, but you really don't quite understand what it all means. Bryson, thank you for your question. Here it is. Is critical race theory aimed at achieving a scenario where race no longer becomes an issue? Or is it more aimed at elevating the importance of race? In other words, what's the end goal for CRT?
The end goal for CRT is to get rid of racism. Race will never be gone because we've been racial classified. It's a social construction that's imposed on our bodies. I don't know if practically we'll ever get rid of race because we use these markers to define and differentiate ourselves phenotypically, but not race is not biology. Critical race theory is about racism. Okay, so racism is a system of forces that come to work together to create these massive disparities in our society. We got wealth, economic, political, housing, homelessness, the criminal justice system, as we talk about incarceration rates. Why are they so disparate and why are they so racialized? Why are they so disproportionately and adversely affecting people who are African American and indigenous? And so that's the question. Critical race theory doesn't want that to be the case.
As members of the white community, we have got to stop pushing the agenda that diversity and truth in education is all about indoctrination, shaming, or placing guilt at the feet of white people. Good evening, board members. My name is Melanie Moore. I am the parent of a 3rd and 4th grader in District 2, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. The issue I would like to address is the need for equitable education in all areas. But first, I'd like to share a little something personal. I struggle with depression. I have for many years. I've gone to counselors throughout the years, and one of the first things they ask me is, tell me about your family of origin. Tell me about your past. What happened to you in your past that is causing the current trauma and pain that you're feeling? In the same way, our country cannot begin to heal until we deal with the pain, trauma, and hurt from our past. We must teach our children the truth about the past and then show them how to be the change we wish to see in the world. We can help them connect the dots from the awful events of the past to the current issues that face our country so that real change can happen. As members of the white community, we have got to stop pushing the agenda that diversity and truth in education is all about indoctrination, shaming, or placing guilt at the feet of white people. No one is asking you to get up and place your head on the chopping block for the wrongs of the past. People are simply asking for their stories to be heard and taught as ours have been for generations. I would not allow my children to wallow in anger, pain, and self-pity. I would do all I could to help them to be the very best versions of themselves, even if it hurts to point out some painful truths about their behavior. In the same way, we have got to be honest with ourselves and admit that systemic racism is real, that this country was created and prospered under the ideals of white supremacy, and that we are responsible for righting the wrongs of our forefathers. We did not create this mess, but we are the ones that have to clean it up, starting with honest, equitable education practices now that will teach our children the hard truths about our past so that they can create a better future. I understand that change is hard, but it's got to come. Racism is alive and well in this country. It's seen in the groups of white men with torches chanting, "You will not replace us," to the fact that in 2021, we still don't have a federal anti-lynching hate crime law. We need to know better, and then we need to do better.
Black resistance also deals with voter suppression. Voting rights are under attack nationwide as states pass voter suppression laws. These laws lead to significant burdens for eligible voters trying to exercise their most fundamental constitutional right. Since 2008, states across the country have passed measures to make it harder for Americans, particularly Black people, the elderly, students, and people with disabilities, to exercise their fundamental right to cast a ballot. These measures include cuts to early voting, voter ID laws, and purges of voter rolls. Some states are discouraging voter participation by imposing arbitrary requirements and harsh penalties on voters and poll workers who violate these rules. In Georgia, lawmakers have made it a crime to provide food and water to voters standing in line at the polls. Lines that are notoriously long in Georgia, especially for communities of color. In Texas, people have been arrested and given outrageous sentences for innocent mistakes made during the voting process. Because of racism in law enforcement and the legal system, criminalization of the ballot box disproportionately impacts people of color, who are more likely to be penalized. The purpose of voter suppression is to instill fear in Black people and suppress their voices in the democratic process.
Ooh, it's getting late.
Yes,
I'm
it
so
is.
glad that this is our last
too.
topic to study because
Me too.
I'm getting tired.
Ready to go home.
But you know that the word says that that God puts people into position.
That's
Right.
right.
God does.
God
Yes,
does
he
that.
does.
That's right.
And the next verse comes from Romans 13:1.
All right.
And it reads, let everyone be subject to the governing authorities.
All right.
For there is no authority except which God
All right.
has
All
established.
That's right.
Amen.
The authorities that exist have been established by God.
Yes,
Amen.
we
We
know.
know.
We know that. We
That's
sure
right.
all know that.
That's why the word tells us to also pray for our leaders.
Yes. That says that.
Amen.
It says that.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but we must do our part
All right.
That's true.
in electing the right leaders. God moves when we move.
That's right.
We must do our part. He will allow stuff to happen,
Lord.
such as wrong people being elected because of our inaction.
He sure will.
We have to be assured that we register to vote and that we actually get out and vote.
That's right.
You know, so many of the wrong people have been elected, and so many good laws have gone unupheld because we don't have people in place that look like us.
Yeah.
All right.
We know this, but so many of us, people that look like us, don't even want to register to vote.
You right.
And then those who are registered, they don't even want to vote.
All right.
And won't vote.
So what do? So how do we change that? Then there are persons who actually want to vote who look like us, who are getting arrested for casting a ballot unknowingly when they thought they were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That's true.
I know y'all have heard about the Black
Trickery.
woman in
Yes,
Texas.
Yes.
She had been arrested and served some time because of a tax incident or whatever, only 10 months. But then she cast a provisional ballot after she asked permission to do so. She asked, can I cast this ballot? Is it okay for me to vote? And she was told yes.
Trickery.
She cast this provisional ballot, and then she was sentenced to 5 years in prison because she was not supposed to vote.
More than she went
Probation
to
to
prison.
prison.
Then in the same area, and this is a woman in Texas now, in the same county, you had this Caucasian man who fabricated, he lied on his application, on his registration to vote, and he was only given probation, and he ran for office and won.
Oh, my
Now look at the
word.
discrepancy for the same incident.
That's terrible.
Then you had a Black man who, yes, he served time for something he shouldn't have done. But again, he too asked, is it okay for me to vote? Now, he was on probation, and he cast his ballot to vote, and they sentenced him to 20 years in prison and fined him $100,000.
Wow.
Now, something is wrong with that.
That's
Make
terrible.
that make sense.
Don't
Make it make sense.
Terrible.
You know something, that's one thing that we have to do. We have to educate our people.
We do.
And you know, but it begins in our own homes.
That's right. That's
Let's
right.
start within. Let's start working with the people we got in our homes, our families, in our churches, and we need to start now.
Right
Right now,
Because
right
we
now.
only got a few more months, and then we're going to be back in midterms, and here we go again.
And you know
with
who's
all of
running.
that.
Yes.
You know, we got another major election is going to take place in 2 years.
That's right.
But we need to be ready. We have been suppressed on our votes, and they keep trying to keep us from voting.
Yes, they are.
Voting sites open 2 hours late.
Yeah.
And you know, people don't want to go out after dark as it is. But when people, regardless of age, standing out there in them vote lines for hours on end. And I just don't really believe that this is being done. But you know something? We're going to have to do something. Because the people going to get tired.
They're hoping we won't get
And they're
tired.
just going to leave.
They're hoping we will.
And you can't even give nothing in the line if they hungry or if they need water in the line. They can arrest you for that now in Georgia.
Yeah, that's suppression. That is voter suppression. No water,
And if you
no
got to leave,
food.
go to the bathroom.
That's
You
right.
lose your place in line.
That's right.
It's sad. It's really
terrible.
sad.
It's terrible. You know what we're going to have to start doing? We are going to have to start taking action. We cannot just sit around and talk about it.
All right.
What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to inform people that you are going to have to be waiting in a long line.
That's right.
So you need to take some food
Tell 'em.
with you.
Right.
All right.
You need to take some water with you. You need to take a chair so that you can be able to sit down. We're going to have to go and knock on some business doors and see if they can't get the people some porta potties.
All right.
Because they do
All right,
not
that's
want the
right.
people to use their bathrooms. You know, it's just terrible. We are just going to have to educate people. We're
Yes.
not only that, like I said before, we're going to have to educate people about the people that are running for office.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you need to know that whoever you're voting for has your best interest at hand.
Yeah, they can't believe what they hear on TV all the time.
No,
That's
no.
right.
No.
Well, too many people do believe what they hear on television.
And it's usually not correct when they hear it.
Amen. You're right
That's
on that.
right. Exactly right.
My name is Crystal Mason. I was arrested and was sentenced to 5 years for illegally voting. I filled out a provisional ballot. The provisional ballot did exactly what it was supposed to do. It never counted. I've served my time. I was sentenced to 5 years for a tax fraud case. Came home productive in society. Only had 10 months left. 10 months left. To go to prison again for casting a provisional ballot, it really says a lot for the system.
There's a judge who forged signatures to get himself on the ballot and ultimately won the election in the same county, who was given probation. There were 4,500 provisional ballots cast in Tarrant County in the 2016 election. Almost 4,000 of them, 3,990, were rejected. Yet Crystal Mason was the only one who was charged with the crime.
When I got out, I was so excited to see my babies. It was just refreshing to be able to hug them as long as you want to. But when I was found guilty and I had to leave my kids again, the first thing I asked my daughter, was she embarrassed, that I had to leave. Just going in them gates again was difficult, but my strength relies from God, and I believe that victory is going to be the outcome. I've started an organization, and that's Crystal Mason, the fight against voter suppression. I believe everybody should be educated and empowered to vote.
A Houston voter has become the face of Texas voter suppression tactics as communities across the state endured ridiculously long voter lines last year on primary day, Super Tuesday, especially in diverse Harris County, home to Houston. Hervis Rogers went viral for waiting more than 6 hours to vote at an historically black college in the city. He spoke to reporters on his way out.
I want to get my vote in, to voice my opinion, and I wasn't going to let nothing stop me. So I waited it out. It's like it's the way it was going, like it was set up for me to walk away.
He's a great example of a person exercising his civic duty by any means necessary. Well, now Texas Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton, who himself is being investigated by the state bar for his role in pushing the big lie with his lawsuit against 4 battleground states to try and overturn the election, that Ken Paxton, had Hervis Rogers arrested and is prosecuting him for casting his ballot. Rogers is charged with 2 counts of knowingly voting illegally, second-degree felonies with a possible sentence of 20 years in prison on each count. His bail was set at a staggering $100,000. When he voted, Rogers was a few months shy of the end of his parole for a burglary conviction in the 1990s. Under Texas law, the formerly incarcerated are prohibited from voting until their parole ends. But Rogers' attorney from the ACLU of Texas says he didn't know that he was ineligible to vote. The nonprofit Bail Project put up the $100,000 to bail him out, but he now faces the possibility of decades in prison for voting, as opposed to the, say, 5 years probation that a Pennsylvania man received for admittedly voting for the disgraced former president using his dead mother's name. Ken Paxton defended Rogers' arrest in a tweet claiming, "I prosecute voter fraud everywhere we find it." But Paxton seems to only find it in certain communities. A recent study found that nearly 3/4 of Paxton's voter fraud prosecutions have been brought against Black and Latino defendants. Because, of course.
All right, y'all, let's get ready. We've studied all, oh, Lord, I can't hold it by this chair. We've studied all the topics that we're supposed to study, and I'm hungry. Let's go get something to eat.
Oh, I can always eat. You know I don't cook.
That's right. Hey, they got a new Mexican restaurant. Let's go get something to eat.
All right.
Let's go, you all.
Who's paying?
Yeah, who's paying? I got y'all this time. I done got enough trouble this week.
All right, I'm going to eat a lot then.
Really?
We pray that your motto after seeing this play will be resistance. By resisting, Black people have achieved triumphs, successes, and progress as seen in the end of slavery, dismantling of Jim Crow segregation in the South, increased political representation at all levels of government, desegregation of educational institutions, the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the opening of the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History in Washington, D.C., our first Black female Supreme Court justice, and increased and diverse representation of Black experiences in media. Black resistance strategies have served as a model for every social movement in the country. Thus, the legacy and importance of these actions cannot be understated. The enactment of H.R. 40, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the Breathe Act, the closure of the racial wealth gap is not the end. These accomplishments continue to require that we mobilize our resources, human and material, and fight for freedom, justice, and equality, self-determination, and/or social transformation. This is a call for everyone to study the history of African American responses to the adversities faced in the past and now, so we can continue to establish places where Black life can be sustained, fortified, and respected, because you know with certainty that the struggle is real. Thank you for watching.
beside me. Hold my hand in the valley. Lost but now you found me. I don't know where I would be. Don't know who I would be. Came through when I need him. He's a rider. All my haters, you know he be fighting. I never had no one to stick beside me. And when it's cold, I know he got that fire. You made a way. You made a way. Out of no way. Out of no way. You keep on blessing. You keep on blessing me. Every day. Every day. Fight on my battle. Fight on my battle. You say the day. You say the day. Yeah. That's why we give you all the glory. Let's go. Can't nobody do me like you, Jesus. Can't nobody do me like you, Jesus. Can't nobody do me like you, Lord. Yeah. Can't nobody do me like you, Jesus. I give you glory, yeah, yeah. I give you glory, I give you glory. 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 It's already mine. It's already mine. It's already mine.